half hour before the meeting that Zoom had changed all the meeting room numbers. So none of the meeting rooms are the same ones anymore. So I was going to do a poll with people if you guys are willing, because we're going to stick around for just a second. Let's see if we got here TRIZ poll. So let's see if you guys are willing to take this. I got one expert already. That's good. Novice, experience, coming in. Hey, Christoph, I see you down there.
Hi, Bryan.
How are you? Good, good, good. Is it getting cold in Canada yet or no?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. So it depends what you mean by cold.
Subjective question.
Exactly. It depends where you live and your habits. But now it's 15 degrees Celsius.
It's actually warmer than it is in Brussels today. But it was pouring rain earlier, and now it's reasonably okay. Woodstock, Georgia. I know Woodstock, New York. Someone from India. That's cool. Oh, and I see Bryan Mattimore. God, where's Bryan? Bryan squared. Don't see it. Hey.
Hey, Bryan, how are you?
Good. Tired these days, but Hudson, Wisconsin. Okay, let's get this off to
the 42, Bryan.
I'm amazed. So for all of you who made it here, I'm very happy because about an hour before I found out the link for the meeting was wrong. Zoom changed the numbering system. So the fact that you're here is a tribute to technology and things working out well. So let's get started and see where we go with things today. And I think it should be a really good talk. We actually have a really fun case, which I'm excited about. Do you want to see the results of our poll that we've been doing right now? So we have
Hi, Bryan.
Hey. I don't know who's talking right now.
Yeah.
Different one on my screen here. So we have a mix of people here today. Knowledge of AI, knowledge of TRIZ, lots of hope for the talk.
You want me to put it on or shall I put my
I don't mind.
All right.
You can put your headphones on if you prefer.
I don't mind too.
All right, let's start and we'll see how we go from there. So how would you interpret the results of the poll, Richard? What you expected or different?
Most of the people here know something about trees.
That's kind of cool.
So that's a leg up.
Yeah.
And about half of them feel they're pretty competent in executing trees principles and tools, and they may not be masters, but they feel like they've got a fairly good handle on being able to apply it and get some good results out of it. So
Cool.
that's good.
All right, cool. Let's start. So we've got, if you're really high tech, you can do a scan of a QR code and you'll get all the slides from the talk today. I was going to ask you, to say hello in the chat, which a lot of you did, which is kind of cool. And we will just get started and see if we get there. We're going to try to hold off on questions until the end. But if you have a really burning question, throw it in the chat. We'll try to answer the questions in the chat as they come in, and we'll go forward from there. So, introductions today in terms of where we're at. I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to do a mute all. Can you do a mute all there? Mute all. And Richard, you'll have to remember to unmute yourself when you're talking, because right now I've muted everybody because we have a little bit of background. Okay, our talk today. Everybody is talking about how to use AI. And lots of people promise that AI will help you get everything done better, faster, and easier. I'm here to tell you it probably won't, unless you do some things different. To get better results from AI, you need to combine domain expertise, functional expertise, and AI expertise. In the talk today, we're going to go through some fascinating research on AI.
Lost your audio, Bryan.
You had muted yourself.
I had muted myself.
Yeah.
I did that. I'm sorry. I was trying to get other people muted, and he ended up being picked up in the net.
So all right. So we're I don't know where we got, but we're going to do a case study from 1930, and you'll learn how to boost TRIZ and other animation methods with AI to deliver wickedly fast results. And let's see if we can get this to go. So who are we to talk? I'm Bryan Cassady. At least I'm not muted anymore. Background, I'm a serial entrepreneur, 11 companies, 6 countries, 8 exits. I worked for a lot of accelerators. I worked for the Founders Institute, which is the world's largest accelerator program, and the European Innovation Academy, which is the largest one in Europe. And I also work at a number of leading universities. I just recently had a change of heart in who I'm working with. I worked with the fortunate few for many years, young guys in Silicon Valley and things like that. And I've decided to focus on the motivated many. And my goal is to train 1 million innovators by 2027. I'm a ways off from that target, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to give it a shot. I had about 5,000 this year. And AI is a big part of that because AI allows things to scale. And in the process, I've added a lot of AI innovation expertise to my background. Richard, you're up.
Thank you, Bryan. Glad to be here. I'm particularly glad that, Bryan and I have been working together for about 6 months now and looking at different projects. I'm the CEO and principal of Technical Innovation Center, also the executive director of the Altschuler Institute. As my part is TRIZ, I always knew that TRIZ is a very powerful methodology, which I got involved with about 30 years ago. But with the development of AI over the last 2-3 years, of course, AI has been going under development for about 20 years, but really come to fruition. I saw a great opportunity for TRIZ to really take the next big step in an S-curve development and evolution of our system. I've trained a lot of individual engineers in hundreds of companies throughout the years, and how to use TRIZ competently and confidently after their training. So with this hooking up with Bryan, I hope that we can accelerate his goal and get to 2 million people, hopefully.
You're not shying away from small challenges. If I get to my 1 million, I'm going to be really happy. So where we're going to start is we're going to start with a little bit of common ground. And the common ground is, we're going to talk today about innovation. But before we talk about innovation, there's probably a need to define what is innovation. For me, innovation is something which is meaningful, unique, and is able to capture value. I spent a big chunk of my life doing research about what helps companies succeed and fail, and tracked over 400 companies over 4 years. And the biggest difference that we found between winners and losers was not the quality of ideas, but the ability to build ideas over time and to take mediocre, weak ideas and make them into great ideas. Innovation, to a large extent, is a process of growing ideas. And we saw winners building ideas over time, cycle by cycle. And I use that to give the name of my book, which is Cycles. And each cycle is around, you figure out what you want to do, you build something, you communicate, check it, and systematically improve. And hopefully those things are going in the right direction. Now, the idea that we gave behind the ABCs of innovation was saying it's as simple as the ABCs, which would be nice if things just were simple, straightforward, you went step by step. But in fact, the whole innovation process is an iterative process. You might move forward one step, back 2 steps, and it's just continuing to move forward bit by bit. Perhaps the biggest thing we learned when we were going through the analysis of the results is that innovation is the product of the parts. It's actually all the stuff fitting together. It's not that you can do one thing really well and get away with it. But in fact, you have to do the strategic alignment. You have to build ideas. You have to check them out. You have to improve them. And if you do that right, you get bigger ideas faster at lower risk. If you miss out on the part of alignment, what you'll end up with is chaos and wasted energy. If you miss out on building ideas, you'll end up with weak ideas and small improvement. And if you miss out on checking ideas, you're going to waste a lot of money on bad ideas. And the most important and the least sexy is about systematically improving. If you don't systematically improving, you'll end up with small wins and no big gains. Now, within this, we talked about innovation. We're going to talk about AI, and we'll start also with a definition. AI, defined by McKinsey, is a machine's ability to perform the cognitive functions we usually associate with human minds. Now, when we talk about AI, there's lots of different types of AI. There's neural networks, there's predictive AI. But what we're going to focus on today is something called generative AI. Generative AI is focused on creating new and original content. It takes old stuff, lots and lots of old stuff, to guess new stuff. It's basically a prediction machine. There's a few facts around AI and innovation, a lot of worries and concerns about how AI and humans are going to co-collaborate and work together in the future. And typically, if we're working in the area of innovation, what we're looking at is the quality of ideas, the quality of new things we're building. And you can compare ideas on 2 different measures. One is the value of an idea, and there AI tends to beat most humans. In fact, if you look, it's the brown versus the blue. And in terms of novelty, you have some humans that are still winning, but for the most part, AI is doing quite well. There's a study that was done, not too recent anymore, but it was done between the Harvard Business School and Boston Consulting Group, which I think is one of the best studies on AI because it shows the potential and the weak areas of risks associated with AI. What they did is they had people, bright consultants, working on tough creative tasks with and without AI. The without AI is the dark green, and the with AI is the lighter blue. They divided their consultants in 2 groups. They had the lower performing, the bottom half, and the top half. It's important to remember the bottom half of Boston Consulting Group consultants are still pretty clever folks. What they saw in the top group is a 17% increase in terms of creative performance which is like gaining 1 day a week. In the bottom group, they saw 43% gain in performance. Now, it might seem to you that that's the most important number on the page, but in fact, the most important number is the one which is not shown, which is showing that in fact, what AI is doing is it's bringing everybody up to the same level in terms of creative tasks. Now, one of the things they did in this research, which I think is really clever, is they didn't just look at what AI can do, but what AI can't do. And they gave people in this study, one group who didn't have access to AI and had no training, and another group which had access to AI and a lot of training, a difficult task that AI is likely to get wrong. The group without AI got it right 85% of the time, i.e. wrong 15%. The group with AI got it wrong 40% of the time. And they were typically more convinced that they had the right answer. What happens is when you over-rely on AI, we tend to make mistakes. And one thing that AI is really good at doing is giving you an answer to everything and convincing you that answer is still right. Now, working with AI for innovation, there's a lot of questions about the best way to do it. And I'm sure a lot of you would like the secret handshake or the secret prompt that will unlock all the potential of AI. And what I have to tell you is there's no AI magic. It's about guiding AI with expertise and working interactively. The background there around how AI works used to be explained really well by a series of facts. If you asked people to give you a random number, if you asked AI to give you a random number between 0 and 100, the answer was 42, 15% of the time. I'm questioning curiosity. Would anybody know why it's 42? And for those of you who have seen my presentations before, you can't guess.
Yes.
Yes?
You want me to tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
The answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Yes, it's the answer to the life, the universe, and everything. So 42 was the
Douglas
answer.
Adams' book.
And, AI is essentially a people pleaser. It also gives back the number 7, the number 2, and the number 6, more often than not. It's not actually giving you an answer to the question, but predicting to a large extent what you want to see. What that means is if you're asking AI to give you ideas, it will typically give you pretty weak ideas. The trick is to ask AI to do things differently, to break the pattern a bit. And one way to do that is to use a structured prompt format, which we'll call CAR, which is context, action, result. I want you to think like this. I want you to do the following thing, and I want you to deliver results in the following way. Another way to do that is to use something called few shot, where you give AI an example of what you want, or chain of thought, where you have AI work step by step. The important thing is to stretch it and pull it further than it was before. If you do something and say, give me 10 ideas, the ideas won't be great. If you say, give me 10 ideas with detailed objectives, I want you to think like this, I want you to do it this way, and I want you to deliver results in this format, the ideas will tend to be much better. If you want really good ideas, you put up an iterative process and say, look, you just given me 20 ideas, pick the best 5 and improve on the best 5 step by step. One of the things that I've spent a fair amount of time on is something called mechanical creativity. Richard, you have to make sure you keep on letting people into the waiting room.
I'm watching it.
Okay. It's something called mechanical creativity, which is a way that you can get lots of ideas from AI. Now, there was a study that was done, actually some of the same authors as the original study I cited, done by Wharton and Cornell. And they did research on mechanical creativity. And they came up with a conclusion, which is different than what I was seeing in practice. What they saw is, in fact, prompts could help you get more diversity in terms of ideas, but it didn't help you get better ideas than you were getting from human beings. We decided to rerun the test with 260 business students applying for a job. The test they had was to come up with good ideas for a product that could be sold to college students in the US for less than $50. What we tested is we put people in 4 groups. We had students working by themselves. We had students working with AI. We had a group which was given more help defining a target, and we had our smart AI group. The reason I want to talk about this is because TRIZ performed really well in this process. So our first group was students alone and students with AI. What you see here is human beings, no help, human beings with ChatGPT. We had a next group, which was humans plus clear targets plus AI. What we did is we helped them take this original challenge and put it into a more explicit format, which we call True North. The True North is essentially a story and objective, restrictions, and ideas on where to start. Just like if you were working with people, when you give people a story to start, people do better. When you give AI a story to start, they do better. If you work with human beings and you give people ideas and insights to get started, they will do better, the same as with AI. What we did is we took that initial challenge and tried to make it much more explicit. I'm not going to go through all the things that we did, but I'll point out a couple. One is within the story. There's a trick with AI. If you tell the AI that what you're doing is important, the results tend to be better. In terms of objectives, we said, look, what we're looking for is ideas that score high in terms of purchase intention and novelty. And we said, look, you know what? We've done some work before. These are things that worked out well. Try to do stuff in a similar way. We gave those to the people that let them run with ChatGPT 3.5 and 4.0, got some ideas popping out on the other side. The last group we tested was a clear target plus what we'll call smart AI. Now, smart AI sounds like something really hard, but in fact, smart AI doesn't have to be that complicated. In fact, the winning set of prompts in this test was we took the context. We want you to think like an innovation expert. The action is please generate 80 ideas based on the TRIZ inventive principles for our challenge. Sometimes for the other prompts, we describe the method and we asked them how, give us 40 ideas and specify the result. What we had here is lots of different methods. In fact, almost every method that you might pick up around ideation. We had something called alternative views, which is imagine you're Elon Musk, imagine you're Apple, imagine you're Amazon, and you want to solve this problem. We had the leading creative tools, Scamper, Demono 6 Thinking Hats. We had my personal favorite, which is creative combination, taking related, unrelated stimulus together to come up with new ideas. We had 60 other methods, and we had TRIZ. And we put this all into what we have up online right now, which is called our AI for Innovation Toolkit. Basically, what you do is you select a method, you put in a target, which is the True North, and you push a button, and what pops out on the other side is lots of ideas. And in fact, those ideas will continue and continue until you have tons and tons of ideas. What we ended up with here was a total of 5,402 ideas, 270 by students, 310 from students with AI, 450 with smart targets, and 4,372 from our smart AI. Now, if you were to look at these results, there's different ways you could look at them. The first and probably most obvious way is to look at the quality of the ideas. And the quality of ideas we can measure based on purchase intention and novelty. And that gives us a score somewhere between 0 and 10. If you see here, the human beings had a score of 4.2. The numbers tended to go up when we added AI into the mix, but they didn't go up very much. From an academic point of view, these numbers are statistically significant, but practically insignificant, meaning that basically all the ideas are similar in terms of quality on average. A second thing we can look at when you're looking at ideas is how different are the ideas. And here there's an idea talking about cosine similarity, which measures the similarity between a sentence, between an idea, between a concept. To put those ideas in context, you have, for example, this is a very happy person, and this is a happy person. Those have a cosine similarity, which is close to 1. This is a happy dog. It's going to go down. You're going to go down to 0.5, and today is a sunny day, is all the way down on the bottom. Basically, what you're looking for is ideas which are different. And here, human beings stood out on a winning ticket, which they were the best in terms of developing diverse ideas. AI, all the methods are about the same. Now, you might say, this is a moment to give up. Nothing's going to come out. You're not going to prove your thing that AI can develop good ideas working with humans. But what we ended up with is we said, look, there's a basic insight. Does anybody want 5,000 ideas for how to build products for college students? The answer is probably not. What you really want is a few great ideas. And what we did is we rank ordered ideas, and we had a cutoff point where we had all the ideas above a certain level to identify the top 5% of ideas or the top 250 ideas. And here the numbers come out completely different. Human beings working on their own get about 1 idea per 100. Human beings working with AI and just chatting with it, 1.5, pretty significant increase. If you get the target more effective, you get about double the results. And if you work with these clever AI prompts, you end up with a higher percentage. Now, what I'm looking at here is not the number of ideas generated. It's the frequency of ideas. It's really, really easy to use AI to generate tons and tons of ideas. But what we're talking about here is the number of ideas per 100, which are really good ideas. So what you get with AI is not only do you get more, but you get better. And I'm going to repeat it just to make sure, because it's really important. Smart AI plus clear objectives gives you a lot more ideas and better ideas. To put all this together, what you need to be thinking about is how you move forward and how do you use things in a smart way. Either AI or humans alone are not a clear winner. Humans plus AI will develop better ideas, but they're going to fail in critical tasks. A better way of working with AI is to be using what we'll call smart AI. That's predefined tools, knowledge on how to use the tools, and knowledge on how to interact with AI. As we've seen, one of the smartest ways to use AI was TRIZ. And now I've been talking long enough, and I'm going to transfer things over to Richard, and he's going to tell you a little bit about TRIZ.
Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate it. A lot of you already know a lot about TRIZ already, so a lot of this is going to be common knowledge for you, but there are about half of you people out there that still don't have a really good grasp of TRIZ. But TRIZ originally was designed and developed by Gunnar Altschuler in Russia back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. It's continuously being developed and improved upon. The thing that made me attracted to TRIZ was the fact that it was based on empirical data. TRIZ analysis of patent data that was accumulated in the patent office in Russia led to extracting of information of what problems were solved and how they were solved. And all of that information was cataloged by Altschuler and his team of people. And they did between 30 to 40,000 patents that were critical patents. Nobody knows exactly how many for sure. And the findings were that 97% of the patents had a lot of duplicate solution concepts, even though they came from different industries. And that was the fascinating part, is that, if you're in one industry, you don't necessarily know what's going on in other industries and how they solve their problems. That's why there's a lot of companies buying out other companies or merging of companies in order to capture intellectual property from the other industry that will improve their overall industry and their competitiveness in the marketplace. The most popular tool of TRIZ is the inventive principles. There are 40 of them. There are more, but there are 40 primary ones that we tend to use every day. And we even use them as individuals, even before Altshuler designed TRIZ. And they're very, very important principles that we can move forward. Okay. Whoops. What is TRIZ? Inventive principles are basically the first level of TRIZ. They're well known. Their books have been written on 40 principles. We've got one. There are many other subtools in TRIZ that you can use in order to improve and enhance the quality of your problem-solving capabilities and get more solution concepts. As Bryan was talking with how you can enhance AI and into iterative AI and get more quality solution concepts from there also. Problem-solving philosophy. TRIZ is a comprehensive philosophy for solving problems. It's a roadmap, as Altshuler put it, to being able to look at a problem, process it, and come out with some kind of viable solution concepts that will lead to a final solution. And that means, you know, you take your problem, you dissect it, you learn everything you know you can find out about it. You develop contradictions, you put it through the mill, and come out with some principles that can be used in order to provide viable solution concepts for your problem. And then, of course, if you've got multiple solution concepts, you can pick the best one or ones or combination of them to come up with the most reasonable solution for your problem. How do we solve problems? Okay, we have my problem. Okay, you start off with a problem, and usually if you know the answer to the problem, you go right to the solution. There's no problem at all, actually. But what happens when you have a problem that you don't have a solution for, and you don't know what the solution is? Where do you go? Okay, research tells us that many problems have already been solved before, but just in different industries, in different areas of the world. So the solution is the final step of problem solving is often not as straightforward as we think, but can be converted looking for contradictions. And a contradiction is when you're trying to improve something and something else gets worse. You know, why can't you solve this problem? What's the major impediment? Maybe you're trying to improve the speed of an automobile or whatever, but the fuel consumption goes down or goes up. That's not a good thing in today's world. What are the barriers to problem solving? Okay. Things that we need to really face when we're problem solving is, do we have the knowledge to solve this problem? There's a shortage of individual knowledge. And every class that I've asked this question to and asked, say, if you know everything, raise your hand. And I'll ask you the same question. Do you know everything? Please raise your hand. Come on. Yeah, Bryan. Yeah. You got AI working for you. I know. You're hallucinating a lot.
I'm a hallucinate.
Okay. And nobody ever raises their hand because we don't know everything. We're human beings. We can't know everything. It's impossible. So we have that problem, and that's one of our barriers in problem solving. Psychological inertia or mental blocks is another individual problem that we have in the fact that we primarily know information about our subject matter that we've been trained in. If we're a mechanical engineer, we're looking for a mechanical solution. If we're a chemist, we're looking for a chemical solution, and so forth and so on. So basically, we're limiting our solution space to being able to find problems. Organizational rigidity or paradigm paralysis is a corporate problem, and it's probably one of the biggest impediments to innovation. How many times have you provided a good idea to your management and they slough it off? They just don't take it for, they take it as, well, we're going to continue on doing what we're doing. We're happy with it. We don't need to fix this. And that's not good. you can't be afraid to fail. A lot of organizations, if you raise your hand and come up with some solutions and shake and, point the finger at yourself, you're going to probably be in trouble. Lack of problem-solving resources. Okay, there are literally hundreds of different tools and methodologies out there for solving problems, and we don't have access to all of them. And basically, half of you don't have access to TRIZ yet. Hopefully, you'll put that in your quiver, and it'll be just another tool that you can use in order to help you solve more problems better and faster. And conflict avoidance, avoiding contradictions. Contradictions is the heart of TRIZ problem solving. If you can solve a contradiction, you're going to have a very high quality problem solution to what you're trying to accomplish. And how many of you actually look at what do you do with a contradiction? When you run into a contradiction, how do you go about solving it? Do you solve it without compromise, or do you solve it with compromise? And I venture to say most of you will solve it with some compromise, some method of compromise. So one of the most powerful concepts that Altshuler developed when he was studying patents is he would take the actual patent, the specific problem, whatever that was, and he would define it, as to what the problem is and what the solution is, and he'd catalog it. But he would also break that down, that specific problem, into a conceptual problem. And he would define that problem by using parameters of the problem, not the specific industry, but parameters of the problem. Is it his weight? Is it strength? Is it durability? Is it manufacturability as parameters? And then he would look at how the problem was solved, and he would look at, what parameters or combination of parameters, what's getting better, what's getting worse, was used in order to solve that problem. And he would identify that contradiction to a principle that he was able to extract from the study of the patents. And then from those principles, the individual could then determine which principles seem to work best, come up with solution concepts, and that becomes back into the specific factual problem. AI facilitates this process greatly simply because it's got so much more data to work with. Let's face it, back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, we didn't really have computers the way we have computers today. Everything had to be done by hand. It took a long time. And the amount of data that was collected and using in developing TRIZ was limited at the time. Today, with the advent of how much data we're collecting, which is ridiculous, the amount of data that's collected in the last 6 months is more than what we had in 100 years, and it's continually exponentially increasing day by day. So the only way that we can control data is by using computers and large language models in order to identify new and factual information that can be brought into play against a current problem. Okay. Okay, there we go. Why is TRIZ useful? Most problems are not unique, but a variation of problems that have occurred in the past in some other industry. Our target is to generate ideas and generate them fast. It has some workplace. It has been proven that the solution and solution concepts that we've been developing have worked in the past. And AI is great at finding these ideas. They have worked someplace in the past. TRIZ's powerful and comprehensive methodology. As you can see by this TRIZix roadmap here, TRIZ is fairly complicated, and it takes a long time to learn all the main tools and sub-tools and levels of TRIZ that can be brought to bear in order to solve small and difficult problems. Most engineers don't want to invest all of this time in order to study TRIZ and be able to use it effectively. I can understand that. But there's a rule the Pareto rule that says you can spend 20% of your time and gain 80% of the knowledge. And in this exercise here, 20% of your time is 1 day instead of 5 days, and you can get effectively use of 80% of what TRIZ has to offer. It's not 100%, and you're probably not going to know it perfectly, but it's a reasonable enough amount of TRIZ that you can come up with and use it as a viable tool for developing solution concepts. And if you spend 2 hours working TRIZ, you'll get a certain level of competence and confidence in using and applying TRIZ. So you don't have to be an expert at all of TRIZ in order to be able to use it. Applying TRIZ in 90 minutes, okay? Find your true north in your challenges. This is part of working off of what Bryan is doing here. And he's looking to facilitate the developing solution concepts using True North. And it's this True North is providing you with additional information. And step 2, based on each method, explore TRIZ tools, techniques can be applied to address each of the challenges and generate a potential solution using your TRIZ expertise. Evaluate and redefine, okay? It's not a panacea. TRIZ is never developed to be a panacea, but it's an iterative tool in order to look at solution concepts developed. And if you don't get the solution concepts that are going to be meaningful for you, you go through the process again and again and refine it over and over again. And that's not a problem. It's like anything else. You don't know everything. You have to learn it. You have to step through it. You have to generate your own path to some success. But if you have a map, if you have a process, and that's what I love about TRIZ, is that it's a process to help you systematically step through your problems and look at all of the parameters of that problem and what resources you can use to solve that problem that show up and that can be used using AI. So I think that's a big plus for TRIZ, and I think some of the data that Bryan put forth gives you that kind of information also. Whoops. What was this? Did we miss a slide here?
Richard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this bit. What I want to do is make sure we get to the end, we get to the case study, because I think
Okay. This is a list of the 40 principles. This is our book, 40 Principles Extended Edition, that we print. These are the first 20. This is the next 20. Again, it's pretty comprehensive. Ask AI to help. Clearly define your challenge, try to develop a true north, and ask for ideas based on inventive principles.
By the way, this was the winning, in the test that we did, the winning idea development method was not more complicated than that. That was it.
Yeah, you can do things very simply if you follow the prompts. The big story, AI plus inventive principles gives you lots of target ideas. AI can generate ideas quickly, about 1 per second, which is a lot faster than I can talk. Thank God. In the case study that we're going to present to you, you're going to see how we spent more than 4 minutes using TRIZ. TRIZ can also help define your challenge, check your solutions, and benchmark your ideas. Bryan, do you want to take up your sprint challenge and concepts and give the audience what you do?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the sprint bit. Not because I don't think it's interesting or important, but what I want to do is I want to get to the part which was the case study that we're looking at. So basically, what I can tell you on all those slides is we've taken a 5-day sprint, we've put it in 2 days using AI to do everything that's there. And what's really cool about it is we get more ideas, we get better interaction between the teams, and we actually develop also some off time so people can focus on making stuff happen. In all the tests we've done, we've ended up with approximately twice the results in half the time. The question that we've been talking about between Richard and I was how could we put TRIZ more effectively in the innovation process? Because innovation is more than just ideas. Innovation is about bringing people together. Innovation is about defining problems and improving problems. And what we decided to do, which I thought was quite ingenious, by the way, it's not my idea, it was Richard's idea, is we decided to do a retrospective test of TRIZ. So we're going to look at a problem that came up in the past and see if TRIZ was able to solve it.
The problem that we investigated was the project of the Hoover Dam that was built back in 1930s, completed in 1935. It was a huge engineering challenge put out by the U.S. government right after the Depression to get people back to work and money flowing back into the system so that we could rebuild our economy. The Colorado River needed to be diverted in order to build the dam. The major task involved was to build 4 divergent tunnels into solid rock with the average length of each tunnel of 4,000 feet, 56 feet in diameter. The current process rate of building those tunnels was 4 years, and the required process rate needed to be down 2.5 years. And you can see in the diagram, the picture here, this is, people drilling the tunnel and the scope of the tunnel divergent channels that needed to be built in order to take all the water in the Colorado River around where the dam is to be built for a long period of time, 2.5 years. So you can't build a dam with the water rushing through it. So you had to have these diversion tunnels.
So we got a cool here for you.
Okay, here's a film just to
Crow
give you some
sent miners
perspective.
down the river to start the first and most dangerous phase of construction, the 4 diversion tunnels, 2 on each side of the river. Work crews would have to drill and blast 3/4 of a mile through the canyon walls to open the holes that would carry the river around the work site. 56 feet in diameter, they would then be lined with 3 feet of concrete.
Those diversion tunnels were unique. To get them lined up, the job of drilling and shooting with dynamite, removing the rock, it was logistically one of the toughest things they did in the dam.
6 companies also had to contend with a rigid government deadline. 2.5 years to divert the river or face steep fines for every day they ran late. The volatile Colorado constantly threatened the job. In a flash, seasonal floods could wash away any plans for finishing on time.
Okay, pretty daunting stuff.
Right.
We don't think about what actually existed back in 1930s because we're in 2024, almost 100 years later, 90 years later, we'll say. It's hard to imagine how much society has evolved over that period of time. But anyway, applying that challenge of how do we dig divergent tunnels faster so that we can meet our deadline, you could use the Nike solution, okay, which is let's just do it, quick, fast and dirty. Put in some information that we have, gather that information, let's look at what comes out. Lots of good solutions, but not all of it was worthwhile. And we needed more specific targets.
Yeah. So what we did here, guys, is we took a initial objective and put it through a whole series of AI tools, evaluating and looking for ideas. One of the things I think it's important to realize is the error that we're making here is probably the most common error that we make with AI. Basically, we figure AI is going to fill in the gaps for our weak thinking. And what we did is we made the same error ourselves. We just got started. We said, look, let's see what comes out. And in fact, what came out was not what we needed to come out.
Okay, so next iteration is we wanted better targets. So we added clearer targets and using TRIZ applications, using more TRIZ applications and tools. We came up with a lot of more solutions, but we needed to continue this process of reiterating the process. So come on. So step number 3 is we had better targets and iterative AI. We had clear target vision. We hit higher rates, but still there was nothing critical or exciting that came out of the development. So we wanted to add additional functionality and ideality analysis. And we came up with target plus sub-targets plus iterative AI, and bingo. And our learning we came up with some really viable solution concepts that we could apply to this era of time. One of the things that you have to note is that, when you're working with AI, is that it's trained to give you solutions, whether they're valid or not. So you have to, you can't turn off your brain. You have to look at every solution concept proposed and analyze it for validity.
Okay. Let's
talk about what worked. Okay, Brian, I'm sorry.
So, the idea here is actually quite similar to what we do in a sprint. You start with an objective, build some ideas, test those ideas out, and go out. What we did find that worked here, it was a 4-step process. We started with a clear objective. And actually, for those of you who fill in the feedback form, we'll actually give you the spreadsheet that allows you to do these things step by step. In step number 2, we talked about the need to be more detailed in terms of the objectives we're looking at. When the objectives were broad stroked, we ended not getting good solutions back. So we did some work in terms of ideality analysis, which are TRIZ tools. We updated our True North. And then finally, we used an iterative prompt chain rather than just generating lots of ideas, but I'll explain that in just a second. So step 1, defining an innovation challenge clearly and effectively. Give me a story, give me an objective, give me the stuff you don't want. Step number 2 was a functional and ideality analysis. And here what we did is we had to move back from just saying, look, we wanted to build a tunnel faster, but actually trying to understand what's actually happening in the tunnel building process. In terms of functional analysis, what we could look at is what was taking time in digging those tunnels. We looked at scaffolding was taking a day to set up. It took 2 days to drill the holes and put in the dynamite. It took 1 day to blast and remove. And it took a day to take the scaffolding down. What we saw here is the scaffolding was the key to solve. We also had to look at ways to reduce the speed of drilling. We then dug a little bit deeper, and I'm sorry for the quality of this visual. It's not Richard, it's Bryan. But in fact, what we looked at is trying to identify the ideal solution, and we used AI as a sounding board. The first step was to identify what we wanted to do, and we asked the question, can you define the work to be done building one of the Hoover Dam diversion tunnels? AI can give you that back. We wanted to understand, figure out the amount of time spent on the different things, focus on the most important things, and then, quite importantly, is trying to identify what might be the ideal solutions. What is the perfect solution, which is there, which gets your targets pointed in the right direction. So for example, we had drilling and blasting, which was a big part of the process. 40% of the time, we could identify things we could do with technology in the 1930s, and we can identify ways to save time. But more importantly, what this did is it showed us, even with all small improvements, we weren't going to reach our target. So we had to look at a systems-based target. The next step was to dig in a lot more in terms of what we're looking at. And what we're looking at is trying to be much more specific in terms of our objectives and in terms of ways to get started. If you're talking to people, when you give people ways to get started, they do better. When you talk with AI and give them ways to get started, it does better. Now, originally, we were talking about the 4-minute solution. We talked about, say, look, give us a challenge, have AI generate solutions. That didn't work. In fact, what we needed to do is we needed to spend a whole middle chunk of prompts around defining the challenge more effectively. And this is what I talk about as far as an iterative process. You start big scale, dig in, dig in, dig in, dig in. And then what you're trying to do is trying to go one step further than what the model brings out. Combining different methods, combining different things. The chain of thought is actually taking the best ideas and improving them step by step. And what we ended up here, we ended up with 266 ideas. If you want, you can use the prompt chain, which is there. It takes about 30 minutes to go through, and you could apply it to almost any challenge. All the prompts are built on the way we talked about before, context, action, result. And in this case for TRIZ, we actually spent some time explaining what we wanted to do. So for example, for contradiction analysis, we explained what it was. Now we got lots of ideas that came out, lots of detailed ideas, but the one big idea that came out was not what was the final solution, but it is an interesting solution. They talked about putting together a rail-based solution with a steam engine, talked about having fixed scaffolding, which is multi-level so people can go up, drill from many places. It would be pre-made, it would never be taken down. We would have a multi-usage of the solution, meaning that, in fact, the train would bring it up to drill and the train would remove it at the same time. We made this image with AI and we couldn't figure out a way to get it to work. And the last thing is we would have some established pre-built supports up on the top level, which we use to reinforce the tunnel. Let me show you what came out, and we're going to be tight on our time. So we're just going to show you the video and then we'll.
An almost comic contraption turned out to be Frank Crow's best weapon against the tunnel deadline. The steel and wood beast, called a drilling jumbo, carried 3 tiers of drills on a 10-ton truck. The rig was backed up to the face of the wall, and the 30 drills bored holes into the rock to plant dynamite. The jumbo could then be pulled away for blasting, and the whole operation moved to the next drilling area.
That was a pretty clever idea, because before they'd have to put up staging. Then the staging would have to be taken down when they blew the face, and then they'd have to replace it. It was a big time saver.
So what we're going to do is we're going to try to close this off in 2 minutes, and then let the people who want to ask questions about TRIZ and stuff like that at the end. The reflections we had doing this case study were not something new, but they reinforce something we knew, which is really important. If you want AI to work well in terms of innovation, you need 3 types of expertise. You need domain expertise to establish clearly what you want to do. Here, AI can help you develop that expertise. You need innovation expertise, which is thinking about the process in which ideas are built. And you need expertise in terms of AI, which is not just using AI naively, but interacting with AI. What we saw here in this process is that TRIZ was plus AI plus expertise was easy, fast, and effective. It matches what we talked about in terms of smart AI, which is predefined tools, knowledge on how to use the tools, and knowledge on how to interact. I had a chart here showing how we added into the sprint. I'm not going to cover that. But what I can tell you is really cool, because with AI, effective, fast, and easy. If you want to use these tools, you really don't need us. There's lots of information there about TRIZ. There's lots of information about how to run an innovation sprint. But what we can do is we can facilitate the process. What we bring is innovation expertise, TRIZ expertise, sprint expertise, AI expertise, a focus on making it happen, and a few people have said we're fun along the way. Where we could go next We do trainings, we do certifications, we do sprints. We didn't talk about them today, but you can pick it up in the charts. If you want, there's some slides from the talk. And I'm going to ask you very nicely if some of you are willing to provide feedback on the presentation. And in exchange for providing that feedback, Richard, can you put the link in the chat? In exchange for that feedback, we'll give you the results of the case study. We'll give you all the prompts that we ran. We'll give you a copy of the Cycles book. We'll give you the webinar slides and video, and we'll give you a bunch of TRIZ prompts you can use on any challenge. And we went longer in terms of time. So what I'd like to do is let those of you who need to run off to a meeting, but I'd like to open up the floor to allow you to ask questions and see how things might fit together and how we might help you in terms of asking things. Richard, is it possible for you to put in the copy of the link to the evaluation form, if you would?
That's what I'm finding out now. Had to dig into the system to dig it out. And I'm looking for where my chat is.
Here, I'll get it there.
Okay, there's chat. Participants.
Christoph, I see you there. You always ask good questions, so I'm gonna pick you out. So, what do you think about this process? Have you heard of TRIZ before, by the way, Christoph?
Yeah, I knew the TRIZ before, and I'm still trying to test different things with your website, where we're able to try different things, and now we're in the planning process where we try to define where we would like to go for the future. So I'm trying to think how to use that with the leaders in order to help them to define which strategic arenas we should focus on, and then after that we will define specific challenges inside these strategic arenas, because we are multiple businesses and there are different goals, and now we will have some specific arenas for the global, the corporation, and we will be able to define a new area. We won't have to select their current business area. So I'm trying to figure out how to mix that and to use your tools as a process to help people to see different things instead of using only intuition, because right now they're using a lot of that with some information, but we're doing not a sprint, but more kind of brainstorming where people are bringing ideas, and then we select 5 top ideas, and then we try to find projects inside this strategic arena. So I'm pretty sure we can do something with your tool, because as you said before, your tools are agnostics.
Yeah. So I think what comes out when I'm listening to you, Christoph, is the need for a framework to work within. I mean, actually, the problem that comes up, especially with AI, is we can get things wrong, and we can get things wrong faster than ever before. And what you need is to have a little bit of IQ and EQ, and a process that allows you to check to make sure that you're building ideas over time in an effective way. And TRIZ, for example, for me is a fantastic framework because it forces you to think hard. Yeah. Other questions from people? I see Brian Mattymore down there. Brian, you've never been a day without a question.
Yeah, hi guys. Well, it wasn't clear to me what you meant by targets, and I presume that's sort of how you're defining the challenge. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's defining the challenge and the constraints around the challenge. But in fact, what we found, if we had a general challenge without digging into it, we got kind of weak ideas coming out. So the idea is, there's a famous quote from Einstein. He said, look, if he had to solve a difficult problem and his life depended on it, he would spend, and he had 1 hour, he'd spend 55 minutes defining the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. And I think it's the same type of thing here.
Yeah, you have to put in the time to dig out all of the parameters and the resources of your problem in order to generate a good solution concept. Because if you don't have enough information, how can you come up with a good solution concept? You're brainstorming in 360 degrees, and it's hard to find that solution when you're doing that much area.
Yep. I mean, the other thing that I've been playing with and that's been fun is to combine TRIZ with 4 or 5 other ideation processes in the same prompt, and then things really blow up. So that's fun.
Actually, Brian, that was one of our winning things. So what we did is we combined TRIZ with creative combination. So we took the TRIZ inventive principle with unrelated stimuli, with other stuff, and things just got wild. And and the thing that comes up is you just get tons and tons of ideas. And then the question is, how do you evaluate it? How do you evaluate 5,000 ideas? But that's for a problem for another day.
And the last thing I would say is, because ChatGPT now allows you to do visuals, we have found the visuals can be interesting stimuli as well.
Yeah. Askar, I see you've got a question there, and I'm a little bit worried about your question because I have no idea how to answer it. So go ahead.
Thank you.
So you said, does AI have psychological inertia? Can anyone here answer that?
Kind of. I think I can provide some information for Oscar because people tend to bond to the ideas, as we spoke sometime before, and we are kind of bonded to our own ideas. So the psychological inertia comes from that we are based on our experiences, our memories, and how we manage the things in the past. And for judging the idea, AI is much better because it's much more objective, and it takes for consideration much more factors without being as biased as we are as a human species. I hope it helps even just a little.
Yes, thank you very much. But my question is about, does AI have any inertia, not psychological? Thank you.
Does it have any inertia?
I've got an answer to that.
Okay.
I've got an answer I can add to that.
Yeah,
if you can
please.
hear me. Yeah.
Mark.
So I think in 2 parts. So it does have psychological inertia because large language models are trained on a corpus of knowledge, which is public plus whatever they bought, but it doesn't have access to books that have been published that are copyrighted that aren't in the training data. They don't have access to private knowledge that's within your company. So there's psychological inertia in that sense, and that it would, it's stuck in its ways just as much as you and your company are stuck in your ways. And there's other kinds of inertia in that. I know some people say, well, it's just predicting the next word. But there's lots of limitations of the fact that it's just a language model. It doesn't have, although it may look like it does sometimes, it doesn't have true problem-solving capabilities at a complex level, which is why some companies have started to try and combine them with like symbolic logic engines and other kinds of structured reasoning techniques. And what the guys have done here is a really good example of wrapping it in smarter prompts, calling it repeatedly, and effectively put in extra knowledge in that isn't there in the form of a process, and which is kind of getting rid of some of that inertia.
Good answer, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Okay, but isn't some of this inertia generated by the programming of the LMN, and that it's not allowed to get all the information it can? It's being, some of the information may not be available to the AI that you're developing. I mean, if all AIs were the same, why do we have 150 varieties of AI?
Yeah, some of them have got different models, and some of them you can train them or fine tune them, or you can add kind of what's called RAG, basically give it an index of your private data using sort of an AI technique called embeddings. So it can search for things that are relevant, and then you add that into the prompt. So that's one of the reasons there's lots of different models. There's lots of different ways of doing AI, and they just keep changing it.
Okay. Well, we're going to do two last. I see Alanis has sort of disappeared, so I'm going to ask Bryan. You got to hand up again.
Yeah, you guys just triggered in me, as the group, many of the group probably know that when Google did the study of successful teams, this was 13 years ago with their Project Aristotle, they discovered that psychological safety was the key factor in the success of those teams. And so it never occurred to me till now that maybe AI can be a tool or a vehicle through the use of it with teams to create greater psychological safety among those team members, because it's a quote, if you will, a third party or a vehicle that's objective, that allows people to maybe build trust with one another on a human level.
Now, I think, Bryan, the big idea there is it's not offensive. When ChatGPT tells you your idea isn't good, you say, yeah, it's a computer. When you tell me the idea isn't good, then I say, oh man.
Right. Anyway, it's an interesting, thank you for triggering that idea in me. It's great.
Alanis, you had a question.
Yes, hi, Bryan and Richard. Thank you for your presentation. And my question is this: would you guys be interested to explore integration of TRIZ with a dialectical framework, which puts all those Altshuler's rules and contradiction tables into a new semantic system, taxonomy, which facilitates finding solutions and generating ideas?
The answer is definitely interesting, but definitely don't have the time for me. So you have to ask Richard.
Yeah,
it would be great to learn more about your system, and to, and when we find the differences and the similarities, that would be fine. Dialectic thinking has always been part of Altshuler's constitution, psychological constitution, and it's certainly, it's something that I don't really know much about, so I'd have to get more information from you. But Alanis?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Alanis, thank you. Do you know Valery Surikov?
Just the name. I don't know personally.
You don't know him? Okay, well, he's the only person that I know that's got probably more AI knowledge than Bryan.
Okay.
But
okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's contact each other and talk about what we can do. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So for me, it's a good sign that many of you are still here. That's kind of cool. Mark?
Yeah, we got 33 out of 57.
Mark, we're going to let you do the last question, and then we'll try and close this out in some way. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thanks. I liked the question on psychological safety and had another answer to it, which led me to another question. So I think you could actually get more psychological safety out of an AI, because if you've got people in different roles participating, you can actually tell it to adopt a persona, which is that role. I actually did this in a problem of like trying to solve humanity's greatest problems, and got it to come up with different, like, politician, scientist, ecologist, psychologist, and you can tell it to come up with the pros and cons and express it from a different point of view. Because I think even if you have something that's being polite, if you've got a very strong opinion or sort of skewed knowledge base, you don't necessarily feel psychologically secure because someone's coming up with, you know, things that appear to be shooting down your ideas. But you can get the AI to help you communicate with someone like from a specific domain in a way that they would be comfortable with. And it made me think, well, what other ways could you actually, you know, TRIZ is a very objective, hard, sciencey thing. And maybe there's other ways of getting the AI to help that be like more understandable to more people or apply to even more domains and not just engineering, but all kinds of things.
Well, it does apply to many, many diverse applications. But when you start reasoning or trying to reason with somebody who's got beliefs that they are not changeable, that they're being stubborn in their beliefs, and you know they're just got one way and it's their way or no way, I don't think there's a tool around that will change their line of thinking. Unfortunately, that's too parochial.
I think that's where Skynet comes in, isn't it?
Cassady, I have got a question.
Yes. Go ahead, Bryan.
Cassady, what are the various AI tools that could be used for these?
For which?
No, for helping TRIZ.
Yeah. There's lots of them. I think the best way right now, most of the TRIZ methodologies are known by the large language models. You can just ask the large language model to say, apply the TRIZ inventive principles to do this.
Or just apply TRIZ methods.
Right.
And it knows about everything that TRIZ is, and it's about just ask it to apply TRIZ method. If you want to go specifically with principles, you can use principles. But when we enlarged the area of search and included diagrams and ideality and evolution and tree and a RIZ and all the different tools that are within TRIZ, it'll search all of those applications and try to give you some kind of solution concept. But again, what you get out of AI and TRIZ together are solution concepts, not necessarily solutions. You still got to use your brain. You got to figure out if AI is lying to you, where it's hallucinating, find the best, most quantitative and qualitative solution concept there, and then work at it, developing it. That's not the answer. You've got to develop it. And how do you develop it? Using critical resources that you have available.
Okay.
So
I like
my point was, what are the various AI tools that can be used along with TRIZ? That was the
what AI tools? Bryan, that's not mine.
No,
ChatGPT, anything. ChatGPT.
If you want to go, there's an AI for that. You can get 1,000 tools. If you download the spreadsheet, actually, one of the things we did find is, for example, the 10 basic tools of TRIZ, ChatGPT got wrong approximately 4 of them. So we actually have in our prompts a description of the tools in a bit more detail, and you can download that. Give me feedback. You get stuff for free. So what I'd love to do is I'd love to thank everybody who showed up. This was our first run through this. We had some technical difficulties, other difficulties, but I think it's an interesting area, and I think continue in it. I wanted to give all of you, so this is for the Bryan and the Mark. This is a hard book I've been trying to finish, which actually different that in fact, diversity is more important than skill. And actually what I like is saying that we got lots of people coming together with different ideas. And I thank you for your time. And that was it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. It was very, very good experience.
Thank you. Richard.
Thank you, Christian.
Richard and Wojciech, could we stick for a few minutes after this? If that's
sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, Ove, thank you.
Hey, Bill. How are you?
I was going to stay just because I had to drop off for another meeting, but I'm back. So good job, guys. It's nice to see you two working together.
Good.
It's good to
Thanks. Good talking with you. You should call me sometime.
Yeah, I got to get back on the Altshuler trees studies.
I see you still wearing our cap, or is that a different one?
No, it's a different cap.
Oh, okay.
What does your cap say? Oops, we lost him.
He's gone.
All right.
Yeah, Bill was one of our speakers at one of our conferences. And
all right. Audit, we are there. So we're gonna start. Turn. Okay.
So there is eight people in the waiting room. So maybe you wanna.
No. I put people there so that they.
So you put. Okay. I thought the Bill went there. So.
Okay. So what do you guys think?
No, it was a good rehearsal.
I was a bit stressed that nobody would show.
We got decent turnout. We had 57 people that showed up total.
57 up the top, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot for an event like this. Wojciech, what do you think?
I don't know where to start because as always, I love the topic. I think that on the part, because you described the criteria for evaluation of the idea very well, but I think we maybe some chart like showing all the process from the step one and combining it all, and showing where are we for people to better understand, because the questions was also somebody asked about do you use other methodologies than trees, and it's even on the slide. I pasted the image. It was 28 page. So maybe some brief explanation of the whole process would be helpful for people, because I think we got some people lost as they didn't follow whole process, or maybe it was just they was participating in an online event, so they just lost the focus on that part.
So I wrote 3 comments here. I said graphic explanations to simplify.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the details.
No, the details are actually great. Maybe not so much technical, but more about the process as a things that's happening, what we are doing. Yeah.
The idea is to describe the process and then go down. So actually, to do your things inductive rather than deductive. So you explain where you're going before you go there, which I think we could do better in the introduction and stuff like that.
And sorry, when I connected, I couldn't even hear you, so I had a hard time because my audio input is, I guess, broken now.
So, Richard, I should introduce you guys. Wojciech, I don't know if you guys have met already.
Not yet.
No.
Manufacturing stuff in Poland and very interested in TRIZ and wanted to be involved in this, but he just got back from his honeymoon. So, so he would.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure your head wasn't in AI for sure.
Sorry?
Your mind wasn't focused on AI during that last period.
Not lately, but before we used to discuss it with Bryan, because my master thesis was about learning the methodologies of innovation in companies. So, but I'm engineer, so it was my master degree.
Do you know Dennis Cavalucci?
Sorry?
Have you met Dennis Cavalucci?
No, not yet.
Okay. He's a very prominent European trees expert. He out of Strasbourg University in France. He's developed some AI over the last decade, programming, and actually started in a company, a separate company. And Dennis Cavalici. He's somebody to contact.
Richard, what I was thinking I'd like to do is I'd like to do this again in about a month.
Okay.
So the idea is spend a month, let things sort of gestate a little bit. The problem is you do it in a month, you start working 3 weeks from now.
Well, we started 5 days. We started 5 days ago, so really working at it, which is too short a period of time.
Impressive result, I have to say.
But I think what we should do is rather quickly sort of write down the things that we see we could improve, gestate a little bit, and come back about 2 weeks from now and say, how do we make this better? And we try and fill up another event. If you're okay with that, and then we can actively involve Wojciech in the process, because then I think we can figure out how to do this better. What I was surprised is how long it took us, because when I recorded the whole thing, we were at 40 minutes, and we were really at 70 minutes when we were here.
Yeah, but we didn't start off on time either.
What's that? No, we started 5 minutes late, which is something I planned. So I planned 5 minutes late, 45 minutes for the talk, and 10 minutes left over for the questions and answers. And we just sort of blasted through that. So we have to figure out, because for example, I cut a whole chunk out because it was cuttable. So we should come back and look at that.
Okay, well, we had how many slides?
It's not the number of slides. It's actually, you can do these, what you call Pekka Kucha's presentations. Pekka Kucha's presentation is 24 slides in 6 minutes, and you tend to be very good.
Okay.
It's not the number of slides, it's how you lead people through it. But I think, we can cut down on the number of slides, we can cut down on content. I think usually when you cut, you get better rather than when you add.
Okay, well, I can think of, several areas of that, and it comes down to what we're trying to accomplish. But let's discuss that. Can you hear me okay?
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, you probably took off your microphone.
Okay, put the mic back in.
Okay, is that better?
Oh yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry. Tried to get off the microphone because they're hot. I can think of some areas in that presentation that we could cut slides and, just hit the heavy points that we want to convey. Slides that are not readable are not necessarily viable because people get frustrated. They're trying to read them and you can't read them. Their mind goes someplace else. So even if we have to cut down and just use a piece of the slide and make it larger so that people can read 4 or 5 items rather than trying to read 20 items, it probably would be more effective. But go ahead.
You think about the following as the next step is we meet, let's say a week or so from now, and actually each of us tries to go through the presentation, which is there. So just take the presentation, which is there, and we'll make a Richard version, a Wojciech version, and a Bryan version, and just try to cut it out. Just say, look, this would be the thing that I would do. And that will force us to think independently before we come together.
Okay.
Okay. And I think that would, and we set up
Now,
something.
how do we do that? If we're going to work from the same sheet, anytime I make a change, it goes to the cloud.
No, what we do is we'll make, I'll put 3 links in the front of the document, and it'll be 3 different versions. So one will be a W version, an R version, and a B version.
Okay, sounds good.
And then you just work on the R version, I work on the B.
Yep.
You work on the. And
Okay.
what would you think about a week from now? We try to find a time to talk together.
I'm good basically every day right now. Next week, you know, the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th.
So I have an event on the 8th, which I'm really freaked out on. How about the 11th, Friday the 11th? Would that be working for you?
Yep, that's fine.
Wojciech, what does your work schedule look like? If we
Let me
right at the
check.
end of the day for you?
For 11th, I think I should be available, especially afternoon.
Okay, and are you 6 hours? Are you in the same time zone as Bryan?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're 6 hours apart.
Yeah. So it's I'm in Białystok, which is
So you're at 7 o'clock, 7:30 at night?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.